Hi, Bob Rasooli in Orange County, California. Today I'm reviewing a challenging API 11A4 exam question with you. During trenching operations for a new compressor station, the contractor is excavating a 12-foot deep trench that crosses an existing buried third-party power cable and an unmarked drain tile discovered during excavation. The trench spoils have been placed 1 foot from the trench edge. A trench box is installed but sits slightly tilted because of uneven subsoil freezing, and a hydrovac daylighting operation upstream has left slurry pooling near the excavation. The operator's excavation plan is approved, but the contractor wants to proceed before the updated ground disturbance documents are reissued. The equipment operator is working without a spotter while swinging the boom under overhead power lines, and the exclusion zone line has been partially erased by vehicle traffic. According to API 1184, trenching and excavation requirements, what is the inspector's most technically correct and comprehensive response? A. Allow excavation to continue inside the trench box because shoring is already installed. Instruct the crew to move spoils slightly farther away when convenient, and rely on the contractor to update ground disturbance documentation before backfilling. B. Stop only the hydrovac and spoil placement activities. Require the contractor to remove the frozen lumps and re-level the trench box, but allow excavation to continue since the existing third-party power cable has already been crossed without incident. C. Immediately suspend trenching operations, require re-establishment of the exclusion zone, verify that ground disturbance documents and excavation permits are current, ensure spoils are set back per project requirements, confirm all buried facilities are positively located, require a spotter for operations under overhead lines, address hydrovac slurry disposal per plan, correct trench box stability, document the newly discovered drain tile for as-built records, and only allow work to resume once all API 1184 safety and monitoring requirements are fully met. D. Shut down all site operations, issue a site-wide stop work, and report the incident to regulatory authorities as a mandatory violation of trenching regulations under all circumstances. Option A is incorrect because it downplays nearly every critical trenching and excavation requirement identified in API 1184. Allowing the work to continue simply because a trench box is present ignores the fact that the box is tilted due to uneven frozen subsoil, which means it is not providing the protection it is designed to provide. API 1184 makes it clear that trench support systems must meet project safety requirements at all times, and a tilted or unstable trench box is a direct violation of that expectation. Spoils placed only 1 foot from the trench edge do not meet project requirements for setback distance and can lead to trench wall collapse, yet option A treats that hazard as something to correct when convenient, even though the standard requires the inspector to ensure proper spoil placement before allowing the work to continue. In addition, option A relies on the contractor's promise to update ground disturbance documents later, even though API 1184 explicitly states that excavation permits and ground disturbance documents must be current and in place before continuing. The option also ignores the unmarked drain tile, which must be documented for as-built drawings, and it fails to address the lack of a spotter under overhead power lines or the erased exclusion zone boundaries. In short, option A overlooks multiple simultaneous safety violations and administrative deficiencies that API 1184 requires the inspector to address immediately. This makes A an unacceptable response. Option B is also incorrect because it isolates only part of the problem and ignores the broader set of safety and procedural violations that API 1184 expects the inspector to control. Stopping only the hydrovac and spoil placement activities while allowing excavation to continue implies that the trench box merely needs releveling, but it disregards the larger systemic issues. The existing third-party power cable being crossed without incident does not satisfy API 1184's requirement that buried utilities must be positively located and that crossing agreements must be followed at all times. The fact that nothing bad has happened yet does not eliminate the obligation to ensure the crossing is handled correctly. Option B also fails to address the operator working under overhead lines without a spotter, the erased exclusion zone boundaries, and the lack of updated ground disturbance documents. API 1184 repeatedly emphasizes the need for valid permits, active enforcement of exclusion zones, proper spotting procedures, and equipment operation monitoring. Similarly, the pooling hydrovac slurry must be managed according to the disposal plan before work continues, and B only stops hydrovac activities but does not require proper cleanup or control. By addressing only a small portion of the hazards and allowing excavation to continue while critical issues remain unresolved, option B falls far short of the comprehensive responsibilities assigned to inspectors under API 1184. Option C is the correct answer because it reflects the precise combination of technical, administrative, and safety actions that API 1184 requires when multiple hazards appear simultaneously in trenching and excavation work. Suspending trenching activities allows the inspector to stabilize the situation without exposing workers to further risk. Re-establishing the exclusion zone aligns with the standard's expectation that boundaries must be clear, understood, and enforced. Ensuring that all excavation permits and ground disturbance documents are current before proceeding is directly required by the guidelines. Setting back spoils to the required distance prevents potential trench wall collapse, meeting the project and operator requirements. Confirming that all buried facilities are positively located and properly exposed ensures compliance with crossing and utility protection expectations. Requiring a spotter when working under overhead lines matches the mandatory safety practices outlined in the document. Addressing the hydrovac slurry according to the approved plan ensures environmental and safety compliance. Correcting trench box stability ensures that shoring and protective systems meet project safety requirements. Documenting the newly discovered drain tile satisfies as-built drawing requirements, ensuring that all utilities not shown on drawings are properly recorded. Option C is the only response that addresses every hazard simultaneously, brings the trenching operation back into compliance, and ensures that work only resumes once all API 1184 requirements are fully satisfied. It reflects a complete understanding of inspector responsibilities. Option D is incorrect because it exaggerates the inspector's authority and the expected response. API 1184 requires the inspector to stop unsafe work and correct hazards, but it does not require or recommend shutting down the entire site or reporting to regulatory authorities unless there is a major incident or a situation that legally demands external notification. The situation described contains multiple safety concerns and documentation deficiencies, but none of them require a site-wide shutdown or immediate regulatory reporting. Taking such drastic action would violate the principle of proportional response that API 1184 expects inspectors to follow. Inspectors are required to act decisively, but within the framework of the operator's own escalation and incident management processes. Option D bypasses those processes entirely and assumes mandatory external reporting where the standard does not require it. Therefore, Option D is an overreaction and does not represent the correct technical or procedural response according to API 1184.